Hi everyone, good morning. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Jimit and I'm community organizer of the Elastic Gujarat user group. And today we are all meeting over here to have a discussion on demystifying Elasticsearch. So here's the overall agenda of today. Basically, we'll be starting with the introduction. I will talk through about the community, what we do, and how we are on a constant lookup for speakers, and then we will start through the session on demystifying Elasticsearch, and then we'll have a quick Q&A session with the speaker, and then we'll do the closing remarks, right? So Elastic Gujarat user group is basically a community which is focused on various different kind of open source tools and technologies that are revolving around various different use cases of search and different suite of products that have been developed by Elastic, right? And we are constantly working on organizing meetups, talks, technical workshops with various different kind of industry use cases, and we constantly try to bring you the best insights onto the products that are revolving around such use cases, right? And there is a very huge community that is spread worldwide, right? We have around more than 1200 meetups worldwide in different regions. And since the pandemic, I guess, as you all know, the meetups have gone virtual, and we are, constantly trying to be connected with the community on day-to-day basis via community.elastic.co or meetup, and then we try to have such sessions on Zoom, right? So yeah, about today's meetup. So today's meetup is going to be on demystifying Elasticsearch. We will talk through various different use cases revolving around Elasticsearch, how it works, and how it can be used on day-to-day basis, what it is. We'll go through all the basics, and we have with us our speaker, Mr. Jay Patel. So I will give his introduction in a minute or so, right? So today's slides will be available on community.elastic.co. It is the community platform that we use, and today's recording will be available on YouTube after the meetup is completed. And you guys can take screenshots, take pictures while we are presenting through, and then you can post them on different social media platforms. If you are tweeting, you can use hashtags elasticguj or elastic cloud in your tweets, right? And then about the community, right? So community can only be driven if we are all contributing together in the same. And we also are on constant lookout for speakers. So if you are interested in presenting at one of our meetups, you can reach out to me directly on any social media platform, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, or you can even contact me through meetup page or from community.elastic.co. And then if you also know someone who might be interested in presenting at one of our meetups, right, then you can help me in get in touch with them, and then we can help you to with all the logistics, and provide you a platform where you can come up and speak about the topic that you are interested in, right? And that helps in spreading the knowledge with others and then learning from others as well, right? So the best way, I believe, to increase the knowledge is to share it with the community, right? So yeah, if you are interested in speaking at one of our meetups, you can reach out to me, and then we can align on that, right? And about today's meetup. So today we have with us Jay Patel, who is currently working as a DevOps engineer at InfoStretch, and he will be presenting about demystifying Elasticsearch. So a couple of lines about Jay. Jay is an AWS certified solutions architect, and he's heavily involved with crafting various different kind of solutions that are revolving around various use cases of cloud and DevOps, and mainly CI/CD, infrastructure as code, logging monitoring, observability solutions, etc. Right. So he is here with us, and he will be sharing his insights on how we can use Elasticsearch for our day-to-day use cases, and then how we can leverage the same, right? So over to you, Jay. I guess you can take it from here.
Thanks, Amit, for such a nice introductions. Good morning, everyone. Uh, I would like to thank the entire Elastic community team to give me this opportunity. So let's get started. So today's main agenda is demystifying Elasticsearch. So let's check the what is the agenda behind this meetup. So today we will discuss about what is Elasticsearch, why Elasticsearch, and various enterprise use cases, and some hands-on demo experience. So let's start with the what is Elasticsearch. So before we start with the what is Elasticsearch and why Elasticsearch, let's jump back to one step and see the what is the history behind the Elasticsearch and Elasticsearch products. So everyone know the CEO of the Elasticsearch. Shane Bannon is the CEO of the Elasticsearch. So in the year of 2000s, Shane Bannon, in the mind of Shane Bannon, comes the idea from the recipe apps. So let's understand the what is the idea comes in the CEO's mind. So in a London apartment, Shane Bannon was looking for a job while his wife attending cooking school, and CEO is in a his spare time he started building a search engine for her growing list of recipes. His first iteration was called the Compass, and second one is for the Elasticsearch. And at that time, he opened the source in the publicly and created a one channel called the Elasticsearch IRC channel. So this is the first idea comes in the year of 2000s. Then after in the 2012 year, uh, created the company called the Search Inc. and again rebranding the Search Inc. to Elasticsearch Inc. And at that time, two more person comes in the community and started working on Logstash and Kibana. So Jordan was working on Logstash, and Logstash is an open source pluggable ingestion tools for sending logs to Stash. I mean for Elasticsearch, and fortunately someone else is also taking a challenge for visualizing the data on dashboards. We can also call the Kibana. So here is the person comes in the community is Rashid Khan's. So at that time in the year of 2012, team is also decided to launch the two more commercial plugins in the market. One is Marvel for a monitoring, and the second one is for Shield for a security monitoring. So in the year of 2015, he entered in the Elastic Cloud, and at that time he also introduced a PickBits. So PickBits mainly used for send network data to Elastic Cloud, and at that time he also realized if we can create something like that, I mean for sending network data, metrics, logs, and audit logs, then this idea comes to from in the year of 2015 and created a one product which is called Bits. In the year of 2016, team is decided to launch Elastic Stack 5.0 version. So in the 5.0 version, uh, in the 5.0 version, they decided to release Elasticsearch, Kibana, and Logstash. Then as well as in this series, he also provided the like security monitoring and alerting in his products. So in the year of 2007, also introduced the Elastic Cloud Enterprise, and in the year of 2018, he launched the Expect Code. I mean, yeah, definitely. The in the year of 2018, team is made the decision to open the code to commercial expect features in order to speed up a development time and increase the community engagement. So in the year of 2018, expect code is open for world. So this is the history behind the Elasticsearch, and when started and who can work on which products and some other stuffs. So now let's understand the what is Elasticsearch. So Elasticsearch is nothing but it's a real-time distributed analytical engine. Uh, the best part about is that it is an open source. I mean, it is a backed by an open source community, so anyone can download without paying any license cost. So it comes under the open source license, and it is developed in the Java platform. It is based on the Lucene engine, on top of which we have a REST interfaces. It supports full text search, like completely document based instead of tables and schemas. So there are some more search based engine available in the market, right? So but those are based on tables and schemas. The best part about this product is the best part about this product is uh, all base is all base documents, and all the data are available in the form of document or in the form of JSONs instead of schemas and table. So you can easily get your data via the JSON format. You can also use that JSON outputs in your infrastructure application or any of the additional third-party tools and some other stuffs. It is also used for a single page application projects. Moving forward. Yeah, near real time. So Elasticsearch is a near real time search platform. That is, there is a slide from the time you index a document until the time it becomes a searchable. It means the Elasticsearch is so quick that as soon as you import the data into the Elasticsearch, it's all are available for work upon. Second one is Node. A node is a single server which is a part of clusters, stores the data, and participate in the cluster's indexing and searching capabilities. Third one is a cluster. A cluster is a collection of one or more nodes that together holds the entire data. It provides federated indexing and searching capabilities across all the nodes and is identified a unique name. By default, our cluster name is Elasticsearch. You can also update your cluster name via the updating the Elasticsearch configuration file. Moving forward to index. Index is a collection of documents which is in the form of JSON format with similar characteristics and is defined by a name. So index is defined by the name. We can see this via the hands-on demo. What is index and how to define index in the Logstash configuration and Elasticsearch configuration. This name is used to refer to the index while performing indexing, searching, or various operations against the documents. Second one is type. Type is a logical category or a partition of an index whose semantics is completely. It is defined for documents that have a set of common fields. You can define more than one type in your index. We can also check the types in the hands-on experience, and we can see the how index and our search queries are works. Second one is document. So document is nothing, just a JSON object containing data stored in the Elasticsearch. Second is shards. Elasticsearch provides the ability to subdivide the index into multiple pieces of shards. So our data is stored in the index, right? So we can also divides our data or divides our indexes into multiple pieces. We can call each piece as a shards, and each shards is itself a fully functional and independent index that can be hosted on any node within the cluster. So we can divides data or divides index into one or more multiple charts, and you can search or you can operate any type of query on charts or index. Second one is replicas. So Elasticsearch allows you to make one or more copies of your index charts, which are called by the replica charts or a replica. So let's understand why we choose Elasticsearch. Okay. First of all the benefits of Elasticsearch is query. So in the terms of query, lets you perform and combine many types of searches like structured, unstructured, as well as unstructured searches. It also helps in working upon the data, uh, which is based on geography, and which is also based on metrics. So here, irrespective of what type of data you, whether it is structured or unstructured or geo-based or a matrix based, Elasticsearch will support all type of data like structured, unstructured, geometrics, geo or a matrix based. The best part is you can uh, retrieve the results from the data which you import in any way you would like, right? So it's a based on some structured query sets, and also unstructured query sets. So we will retrieve queries and results based on queries, and so we can ask a query based on what you want. So this is about the query. Second one is analyze. So second benefits of having an Elasticsearch is analyzer. So lets you understand billions of logs lines easily. So you can easily understand or easily parse your billions of log lines easily with the help of Elasticsearch. For that reason, it supports big volume of data, import your logs, and analyzer can help you to drill down to the issues to the issues across a billions of lines in a small period of a time. So you can easily extract your errors or issues via the, like infra issues or application issues with the help of analyzer. So you can easily get in this short period of time. It also provides aggregation, which helps you to zoom out to explore trends and pattern in your data. So like suppose if I have a cloud environment of approximately 500 nodes, and I want to analyze the entire infrastructure in a short period of time, the best way to do it with the help of Elasticsearch, where I will be importing logs to Elasticsearch, and based on whatever response I'm getting in the Elasticsearch, I will I will very well do the root cause of the issues in a shorter period of a time. So queries and analyzer both are taken care by Elasticsearch. So no need to manage by ourselves or by a team. So let's understand the 4 to 5 advantages for the Elasticsearch. So first one is scalability. By the terms of scale means it can be scalable across multiple nodes. Eventually you can start with one node, and after that you can add 2 or more nodes in your clusters. You can easily scale your nodes. So it is very easily scalable in terms of scalability, and in terms of performance is really fast. Third one is multilingual. It supports multiple languages. Yeah, another advantage is it supports auto completion and instancer. So wherever you start typing queries, you will see the auto completion in the search queries. Yeah, second, another advantage is our Elasticsearch data is totally a document oriented, right? With the in the form of JSON format. So whatever is information is documented oriented approach in its and its and its data presented in the form of JSON format. So benefits of having JSON format is it is widely acceptable web format. Yes, we can easily integrate with the several solutions. Base able to provides you to output in the terms of JSON response. Uh, you can also use that output to present or integrate with the some other applications in your environment. Last but not least, it's schema free. So because it's follow the document oriented approach instead of schemas and table, we have documents where the data is stored. So let's understand the what is the enterprise use cases, and based on that use cases, we will debate on the architectures. So first enterprise use cases is ELK with streaming data sources. So in this architecture, you can see we have a couple of microservices which is running on cloud, and those microservices sends logs to bits. I mean, bits accepts the logs from the microservices, and bits will send to the our streaming services. We can also use Kafka or Kinesis or ActiveMQ or any of the services. Let's consider the streaming service instead of Kafka, and Kafka will sends those logs or those informations or those data to database. Let's consider a MySQL as a database, and also Kafka will send that logs to a logs test. As an input is Kafka and output is our Elasticsearch host, and based on that Elasticsearch host, we can visualize our logs or data on top of Elasticsearch to a Kibana. So this is the architecture of how to design your architecture if your MySQL database is too high. For example, let's consider if you are performing every operations on your database. Let's say select, insert, update, delete, and get all the information are totally get from the database. Then what happened? Your database is too loaded because you need little small information. At that time you are hitting the select query on database. Let's consider if you use Elasticsearch for some queries operation or some select operation, then you can directly hit your Elasticsearch instead of MySQL. So here you can see you can cool down your MySQL engine and MySQL database, and your database performance is too high as compared to uh, I mean as compared to hitting directly all the queries to the MySQL or database. So this is the architecture for offloading database load with Elasticsearch. Yes, this is we discussed in the just a minute ago. Here you can see that we have a various web client like mobile or a web desktop. So if you want to insert, update or delete operation, then you can directly hit or directly queries to the database. But if you want to read some data or if you want to join multiple tables in the form of one single lines, then you cannot search that type of queries to the database because it's a taking more time, and it's a load comes in the database. So you what happened, you can design your architecture and you can add Kafka and Elasticsearch in your architecture, and add Elasticsearch and uh, uh, Kafka in your architecture, and Kafka will send logs to Elasticsearch as well as MySQL. So if you want to read or if you want to get some information or some data, then you can directly hit to Elasticsearch instead of database. So moving forward to next slide, what is ELK? So ELK stands for Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana. E stands for Elasticsearch. Elasticsearch is a search and analytical engine. Yes, we discussed in the previous of slides. Logstash is a server-side data processing pipeline that ingest data from multiple sources like files or bits or ActiveMQ, RabbitMQ, and some other inputs, and transform it and then sends to this test like Elasticsearch. So for example, in the previous architecture, we see the gets the logs from the Kafka. So here you can see the our Elasticsearch gets the logs from the Kafka. So input is our Kafka and signed to the Elasticsearch. So here is the input and here is the output. Third one is Kibana. So Kibana is nothing but just visualization dashboards, and based on logs, Kibana will represent the UI in the UI dashboards of Kibana. So let's check the our normal architecture, which we can use simply ELK with the our applications. So here is the our applications in the any language like Java, .NET, Node.js, or Python. So basically, we send our application logs to Logstash, and Logstash will send that logs to Elasticsearch, and based in the Elasticsearch, Kibana will represent the logs in the UI form, right? But we have a various options to implement ELK. First one is sidecar pattern. We can also integrate our Logstash in the form of sidecar pattern, so we can deploy our microservices or applications over the containers or over the Kubernetes pods or something like that. So we can add one more jar. We can call this the agents for the Logstash agent. Second one is we can also integrate with some queuing services like ActiveMQ, RabbitMQ, RabbitMQ, and some others. We can also integrate with the Kinesis or Kafka for streaming logs from the applications to send to the Logstash as an input, and Logstash sends that data as an output to the Elasticsearch. So let's check the our hands-on demo. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Yes, Jay.
Yeah.
Yes, Jay, we can.
Yeah. So ELK stack, Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana are deployed on the cloud machines, and this is the our URL for cloud machines. So Elasticsearch basically runs on 9200 ports, and Logstash is 9266 ports, and Kibana for now I'm running Kibana on 5602 port. So you can see here, just I'm spin up the ELK stacks for a time being. So when we hit these URLs, you can get the response from the Elasticsearch, Logstash, and this is Kibana is already up and running. You can check the UI. So for now, I'm starting the my application. So I have a little bit microservice which is designed in the Java. That jar contains only one or two APIs, which contains only hello world or something like that message. So let's check. I mean, let me run that jar file. Yeah, now my application jar is running. So let me hit. Yeah, now response is very good. Shit. Yes, hello Elastic. So in the my Logstash configuration, I have added the one configuration for creates the index, which is starting character is demo. So let me reiterate the, I mean, hitting the indices API. So here you can see the demo hyphen is my static string, and after that printing the current date. You can see just now this index is created. So this is called the index. We can also get the index from the selecting a particular index. So here you can see by hitting these APIs, cat indices, then index name, question mark v is equals to true, and ampersand s is equals to index. We can also use Elasticsearch dev tools. So here you can see the printing the our all the indices which is present in the our Elasticsearch. So here you can see the approximately 8 indices in the our Elasticsearch. This is default indices which is present in the Elasticsearch. Here you can see the just we created. I mean, when we start running our application in machine, then Elasticsearch will get data from the files or logs files and post that logs to our Elasticsearch, and Elasticsearch will get that logs, and based on that logs they will visualize that data on Kibana. Here you can see the today's date is created. I mean, today's index is created on Elasticsearch. So here you can see the all the indices which is present in the Elasticsearch. By hitting these APIs, you can see the particular index in your Elasticsearch. Let me hit this. You can see this. You can see the status, health, index, UUID, size, and some other stuffs. So let me share my configurations. So here you can see the my application jar is running. So you can see the when application is running, then application will creates the one folder called the log, and in the log folder, application will writes the logs in the application.log file. So in the logstash configuration, I have added the configuration like you can get your inputs from the file, and here I added the path of the files and type is log, and based on that logs you can send that logs to the Elasticsearch. So Elasticsearch is running on localhost and now 9200 host, and here I specified the index pattern. You can see the index is demo hyphen year dot month dot date. So you can also define define to filter your application if you want to. For example, your application is storing logs like audit in, audit out, and some other logs. Then you can also filter it out with the help of logstash filters, and sends that filter logs to Elasticsearch. That's it from mine. If you have any questions. Hello.
So we can take
Hello,
questions from audience now. Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, hi, Jay. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes. So, I was wondering about the space requirement for Elasticsearch. So, what? Let's suppose that I am running a load on MySQL and doing searches, and they are pretty slow, right? And
Yes.
suppose I migrate that same kind of data to Elasticsearch. So,
Okay.
what kind of can is there some factor by which the data size or the storage requirement will increase, or it will remain as it is? It will remain. Do you have any factor? Do you know of any factor? Because in my past experience, I migrated a load from MySQL database to a normalized MongoDB, and I saw around 5 times increase in the data requirement, data in the storage space for the same data. Is there something like that that is known for Elasticsearch?
Uh, I'm not sure. Jimmy, can you please add your inputs if you have any such knowledge on that?
So in terms of space, I'm also not sure about any factors, but what Elasticsearch offers you as a flexibility is you can create a cluster from your data, and instead of trying to migrate the whole MySQL workload onto Elasticsearch, you can just index the data that you want to read through or filter through, or maybe perform heavy query operations on top of that data, right? And then since Elasticsearch can be scaled as a cluster, you can go on adding extra nodes to your cluster, and then that way it can help you in maintaining large data sets. But then again, like I said, instead of migrating the whole data set from one database to Elasticsearch, you can have your original database in place and just index the data what you need to search through or filter through on day-to-day basis, right? That way what will happen is the heavy traffic will get offloaded from your database to Elasticsearch, and then your application performance will get improved and your database will get offloaded a little bit, right?
Yes, oh, understand. Okay, another question that I have is regarding. You showed the architecture where we need to, stream the data to be stored in Elasticsearch. Let's suppose I'm having my primary database, that is the RDB, that is our relational database, and for optimizing my queries, I want to also store and index some data in Elasticsearch. So I'll have to put in a kind of a streaming mechanism which inserts that data into Elasticsearch. That I'll have to do either in my application or in a streaming on the streaming side, right?
Right. Right.
Is
So
there a
either
way?
like for example, let's consider a scenario that if you have a Java application or a Node.js application, right? Then you can create kind of a web service that can index the data which is there in your relational database into Elasticsearch, right? But the benefit of having a streaming system in place is it can constantly monitor your uh, primary database and look for new entries in that, right? And then as soon as those entries are there in your database, then you can index them in the Elasticsearch, right? But if you are creating a web service, then either you will need to schedule it as a cron, or you will need to make sure that you are taking an event driven approach so that your web service knows that there is new data which is inserted in your primary database that you need to index, right? So
Alright, and are there any such kind of plugins available, open source plugins, which we can directly add in our stack to, push those data or that index into Elasticsearch?
I am not exactly aware about any out of the box plugins as such, but we can search through Elastic documentation and then get back to you if there are any plugins available out there.
Okay, not an issue. Thanks. I think that those were the only questions that I had. Thank you.
So one question that I had, Jay, is what all different options are available out there to install and manage Elasticsearch? Can you provide some insights on that?
Basically, you can create the surveys, or you can directly download from the package manager, or you can directly download the tar or jars, and you can extract it. And based on that bins directory or installations script, you can create some custom services. And yeah, that's it. I know only two types of installations procedures.
Okay.
If you want to see my configuration, then I can show you.
Yeah, sure. That would be great.
Yeah, sure. So here you can see the I'm downloading zip files for the Elasticsearch, Kibana, and Logstash. So in each folders you can see the bin directories. In the bin directories, we have a shell script for spin up the Elasticsearch or a Logstash or a Kibana. And here I created the service. So let me open it out. So here you can see this is the Elasticsearch service. Here execution start is path of your bin Elasticsearch, and same for the Logstash. And same thing for Kibana. And here you can see the Elasticsearch is up and running. This is the status of Logstash. This is Kibana. Jimit?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is the installation parts which I am done for this presentation or this hands-on demo.
Right. Great, great. Thank you so much. And we have another question in chat. What is the difference between community and enterprise paid versions of Elasticsearch from a feature perspective? It's from Dharmain Panchal. Do you want to take it up, or should I answer this?
I don't have much experience on cloud, so you can take this out.
Sure. So basically, Elasticsearch is available in multiple, uh, like versions and plans, and it can be installed and provisioned in many different ways. Like, so basically, you can either install it on prem, you can install it on your cloud servers. That is the community version which is available out there in market, which is free, right? Then there is enterprise paid version, right? So in enterprise version, it gives you multiple flexibility options, and you don't need to take the operations overhead of installing, managing, and configuring Elasticsearch or any other tool sets which are out there with Elasticsearch, like such as Logstash or Kibana, which is there. So if you are using a community version, then what will happen is you will need to use your own servers, you will need to provision them, you will need to configure Elasticsearch, Kibana, and all the other related tool sets in them. And you will need to manage that also, right? Meaning that you will need to make sure that your space is proper, your cluster is configured properly. If you will need to monitor that your index lifecycle management policies are configured properly so as to save on space and plan accordingly, right? If your space is going out, you will need to add new nodes to your cluster so that your cluster can be up and running, because If Elasticsearch goes out of space, then for data retention purposes, it enters into a read-only mode, right? Then you won't be able to write any new data on your Elasticsearch cluster, right? So basically, the main core difference between the enterprise version and the community version is enterprise is a managed version, right? You can just go ahead, sign up on Elastic Cloud, and then you can spin up your cluster within few clicks, right? You don't need to manage or configure anything from the command line. It will be installed and managed for you. You can select the cloud provider for of your choice, and then you can install Elasticsearch on the best cloud provider as per your choice in the region you can choose. And then like it will provide you the endpoint to connect to that Elasticsearch cluster, and then you can start integrating that with your application, right? Apart from that, there are many other enterprise grade features also which are available, such as application performance management, and there are a lot of plugins which are available in enterprise versions which are not available in the free versions, right? So on the Elastic's website, there are details available on the same. Like if you want to go through the detailed subscriptions, I am pasting the link in chat. You can go through that, and if you still have any other queries on top of that, you can reach out to me, Jay, or Michael, right? And then we can take it from there. Yeah.
Okay, understood. Thank you, Jimit.
Sure. Any other questions? Okay, we have one question from Zaid. What kind of operational tasks are required to maintain and monitor elk? Jay, do you want to take this up, or okay? So when we are maintaining and monitoring the elk cluster, right? So like I said, the most crucial thing is make sure that you monitor the space of your Elasticsearch cluster on day-to-day basis, right? So that it has ample amount of space available. Make sure that you are configuring your index lifecycle management policies in the right manner, so that your new indexes are created, your old indexes are deleted, and the data that you do not need anymore is removed or purged from the Elasticsearch cluster, and the disk space is made available for the new data to be written on the cluster, right? Because like I said, when we are leveraging elk stack in a environment which we are maintaining, let's consider a scenario that it is an on-prem environment, or even if you are using any cloud provider and you are having bare metal VM instances, and then you are installing and monitoring your elk cluster on top of that, then ideally the most crucial thing that I believe is of the space. And you also need to make sure that your CPU and memory utilization of the instances or the VMs that you are running that you are using for running Elasticsearch on top of that, right? You also need to monitor them. Make sure that you set up relevant alarms and policies to send you alerts if any of the nodes go down, or if CPU and memory utilization is heavy, so that you can upgrade your cluster in a appropriate amount of time. And then apart from that, I guess if you are running, like Jay showed right now, if you are running Logstash and Kibana and Elasticsearch, then make sure that you have right procedures to handle a graceful restart if your cluster restarts in a production grade environment, right? Make sure that you have automated restart policies set up in your machines, so that all of your services are restarted automatically, and none of your components are down when you are using an elk cluster, right? Zed, I guess uh, I hope I was able to answer your question. And
Yeah, pretty much. Thanks, Jimit. One more thing to add. Can this be things configured on Kibana dashboard like this, like you said, CPU utilization and all? I mean, can we configure such kind of monitoring on Kibana dashboard?
yes, we can configure that kind of monitoring on Kibana dashboard as well. And from there also you can use it to monitor your Elasticsearch cluster. And then apart from that, there are other open source tools also which can be used in conjunction with this, to make sure that you are able to monitor your whole Elk cluster end to end.
Thanks, Jimmy.
So next question that we have, what options are available as input for logs to Logstash? Is there a feature to trigger an alarm or notification if the error logs get increased in the application? So Jay, do you want to take this up?
Sure, Jimin. So, what options are available as the inputs of logs to Logstash? Yes, you can use CloudWatch directly to the Logstash. Also, you can use sockets inputs. You can also use files. Also use queuing services like ActiveMQ, RabbitMQ, Kafka. You can also use the exec command for executing, getting the logs from the terminal if you are using sidecar agents. And for the triggerings and alarm or notifications, yes, you can create the pipeline in the Elasticsearch, or you can also create the watchers for sending alerts to the DL. And in the enterprise edition, you can see the watchers and pipelines, but in the ELK stack, in the community edition, you can see the alerts which is available in the community organization, in the community. Mitul?
Yeah, yeah, Jay. Thanks. I got the answer.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions that we have?
Good morning.
Good morning, Brian. Thanks for joining.
How's it? Thank you so much. Hey, thank you so much, Jay, for opening our eyes there. You've actually done well in explaining elk. Yeah, I did take a lot. It was very insightful. Yes. The part that I didn't quite understand was that of the bits where we collect the logs from the like from the services. Can you just maybe summarize that part? You said they are bits. I didn't quite understand that. Like where we start from, like in collecting our logs before we now take it to elk or from our services. Yeah.
Sure. Jay, can you to open that beats part and maybe if possible, can you walk us through that again?
Jimin, you are talking in the PPT or?
Yeah. The section where you were explaining about beats, file beats.
Yeah. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
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 Yeah. So in this architecture, we get microservices logs or a terminal logs to the directly to the bits. So bits we can install via the same configuration like Logstash configuration. You can install via jar file or via package manager, and from that bits output you can send to Kafka or Logstash. You can directly send to the Logstash. Based on architecture, you can decide. Where is my output for the bits?
Yes, and to add on to that, basically how we can visualize file bit to function is like, let's consider a scenario that your you have a Java application which is running, basically an app.jar which is running, right? And you started your app.jar like java-jar app.jar, and then you provided a pipe to that application that the application needs to or that store all the logs which are generating as part of the output in app.log file, right? Now what we can configure in file beat is to what Filebeat can do for us is it can constantly tail the log file in which all the logs are being written for the Java application, or if let's say it is a Apache web server or an Nginx web server, then Filebeat can go and constantly do a tail on that particular file, right, and capture all the logs which are generated from that particular file. So that way Filebeat can capture all the application logs or the data that is being written to a particular file, and then it can capture that data and then send it forward to a destination. Right now that destination either can be Logstash, that destination can be a data store, or it can be, let's say, Kafka, right? So that is how it basically acts as kind of a bridge to get the data from a source file and then send it to a destination so that it can be shipped through till our destination. And then what Logstash can do here is that Filebeat reads your data from the file. It can give to, let's say, if in this scenario it can give that data directly to Logstash. It takes the data as input and then it can do some sort of manipulation on top of that data, right? Like for example, if you might have seen through the Java application logs, then we have info, we have error, we have debug, all that kind of logs, right? So we can have that grok patterns inside Logstash, and then we can do filtering on top of the data that we are receiving from Logstash, and then we can decide how we want to enter that data inside Elasticsearch, right? So but yeah, to answer your question, beats is basically to get or capture the data from any data source, and that there can be various different kind of data source. One such application for beats is Filebeat, which can monitor files or log files, to be precise, for us, for capturing the application logs and then sending it or forwarding it to a destination that can be Logstash or any other data source, right?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Sure.
Yeah, one point from my side is Elasticsearch is only useful for MySQL or any other DBs as well?
It can be used with any database that is out there.
Yeah, so any specific reason that it is much or more useful for MySQL, or any other specific reason?
So in this scenario, I guess Jay represented MySQL, but it can be plugged with any database. Like if you are
Yes.
using MongoDB, also you will get similar kind of results. If you are using MySQL, if you are using Postgres, it is very nicely compatible with any database which is out there.
Okay. And I guess
I
there
Yeah.
might be alternatives available of this Elasticsearch, right, onto the market. So any major difference or any major usefulness of Elasticsearch apart from the other resources which are already available into the market, such as you can say that Algoya or that Google Cloud Search or any other search engines which are already available into the market, and how it is different, how the Elasticsearch is different from all of others? Hello.
Jay, do you want to take this up or should I?
Yeah, Jimit, you can take this.
Okay. So there are various different kind of search engines which are available out there in market, as you said. There is Algolia and there are other search engines also which are available. But why
Yeah.
Elasticsearch? So Elasticsearch is basically the foundational engine which started the whole search ecosystem as such, because it has very rich history, and then it is completely open source. There are a lot of contributors which constantly contribute to Elasticsearch. There is a very big community revolving around Elasticsearch. There are various different kind of enterprise use cases, resources that are available in market if you want to use Elasticsearch. And it has, over the period of years, it has grown very much mature in terms of performance, in terms of scalability, in terms of ease of use, in terms of resources and all that stuff, like I said. And plus, if you are using any specific enterprise provider, then there is a chance that you can be locked in with any specific vendor. But when using Elasticsearch, you basically get a flexibility of hosting it anywhere. You can move it. Like if you are switching a cloud platform, then you can take Elasticsearch with you along with your data, right? You are not locked into a specific vendor just because you are using Elasticsearch, and that is the main core benefit of this, right? And in today's scenario, when we are living in the age of hybrid cloud, we always think about strategies or architectures, and we generally try and make sure that we are not in a scenario that we are locked in with a specific vendor when we are using or when we are finalizing the tech stack of any application, right? So that is the main primary reason. It is cloud agnostic. It saves you from vendor lock-in, and it has a huge amount of community revolving around. It has a lot of use cases, and it can be plugged with any database which is out there, be it NoSQL, be it SQL. And the integration part with any applications, right? It is very much mature and very easy to integrate with any applications. There are SDKs available in almost all the programming languages which are out there. And plus, with Elasticsearch, you also get other features as well. Like uh, if you consider a scenario that you are using Elasticsearch, right, then you would imagine that you will compulsorily need a middleware, or you will need a backend application to interact with Elasticsearch, right? But then there are other features available in Elasticsearch, from where you can directly use client-side programming languages to communicate with Elasticsearch directly without having the need of developing a separate middleware or backend for your application. That feature is known as App Search. You can leverage App Search, like for example, if you are building React Native applications or Android applications, iOS applications, right? You can integrate search in your application via App Search directly without needing a Java backend or APIs or Node.js APIs, or any middleware layer for that matter, right? You can directly integrate Elasticsearch with your application from client side itself, and then you can handle that data, right? So it gives you this much amount of flexibility when it comes to handling data sets, and when it comes to implementing search, when it comes to implementing these kind of use cases, right? So that is why Elasticsearch is a more preferable choice rather than using other search platforms.
Yep, great. Thanks, Sumit.
Okay, great. This has been a very nice, fun, interactive session, and I loved the way audience was taking part and asking questions. So once again, I would like to thank each and every one of you. I would like to thank Michael for helping us organizing this, for helping us with all the logistics, setting the meetups, and with marketing communication. So thank you so much, Michael. I would like to thank Jay for sparing his time on a weekend, and coming to this platform and sharing his insights. So thank you so much, Jay, for contributing to the community. And I would like to thank each and every one of you as well, that you all took time from your schedule on a weekend and came to attend this meetup. If it's possible for some of you, may I ask to turn on your video so that we can take a nice picture that we can post? Hi, nice to see a lot of similar faces. Great. I'll just take
Yeah, sure, Jimit.
yeah. Great. Thank you so much. Michael, do you want to add something? No worries. I guess there might be some connectivity issue. It's fine. So thank you so much once again, everyone. We will keep scheduling such kind of community meetups. If anyone is, interested in delivering a talk relating to such technologies, please get in touch with me, and then we can help you in organizing such kind of meetup. And thanks all once again. Thanks, Jay, for taking the time. Have a nice day. Happy
Thank
Yeah.
you, all of you.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
thank you,
much.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jimit.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
thank you.
Was a wonderful
Thank
session.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.